You reach for a handful of cashews because they seem like one of the smarter snacks in the pantry. But how big is that handful? That simple question matters more than it may seem. Cashews provide unsaturated fats, protein, fiber, and useful minerals, yet they are also energy-dense. In other words, healthy does not mean unlimited. A modest portion can fit comfortably into a balanced eating pattern, especially when it replaces a less nutritious snack. But eating straight from a large bag makes it surprisingly easy to consume far more than you intended, turning a sensible choice into a significant source of extra calories. This does not make cashews bad, nor does it mean you need to avoid them. It simply changes the question. Instead of asking whether cashews are healthy, ask how much you are eating, how they are prepared, and what they are replacing in your day. That shift, from judging the food to understanding the portion, is the first clue to using cashews wisely. And it leads to a deeper question. What exactly is inside that small serving that makes cashews worth considering in the first place? What makes cashews interesting is not one so-called super nutrient, but the combination of nutrients packed into a relatively small serving. Cashews provide unsaturated fats, some protein and fiber, along with minerals such as copper and magnesium. Each plays different roles in normal body function, but this is where nutrition claims can easily become exaggerated. Finding a nutrient in a food does not mean that food will automatically prevent disease or produce a dramatic change in your health. The more useful way to think about cashews is as a whole food whose nutrients work within the larger context of your diet. Their fats contribute energy, protein adds to daily intake, fiber can support digestive function, and minerals contribute to normal physiological processes. None of these needs a miracle claim to make cashews worthwhile. What matters is how the entire nutritional package fits into what you eat across the day. And one part of that package creates an interesting contradiction. If cashews contain plenty of fat, why are nuts so often associated with heart-healthy eating patterns? That brings us to the apparent contradiction. How can cashews be rich in fat and still fit into a healthy eating pattern? The answer begins with the type of fat, not simply the amount. Cashews contain mostly unsaturated fats, and they also provide magnesium. But those facts do not mean cashews directly protect your heart. A more useful question is, what happens when a portion of cashews replaces something else in your diet? If they take the place of a snack high in saturated fat, sodium, or added sugar, the overall pattern of your diet may improve. If they are simply added on top of everything you already eat, however, they also add extra calories. That is why nutrition cannot be judged by one ingredient or one nutrient in isolation. Portion, preparation, and the foods around it all matter. So the real advantage of cashews may come less from treating them as a heart health food and more from using them strategically within a balanced diet. But this raises another question. If cashews are energy dense, can their protein, fat, and fiber actually help with fullness and weight management? Fullness is where cashews become especially interesting, but it is also where the story can easily be oversold. Their combination of protein, fat, and fiber may help make a snack more satisfying, which could make portion-controlled cashews useful between meals. But that does not turn them into a weight loss food, nor does it mean eating cashews will automatically make you consume fewer calories later. Claims that they reliably stabilize blood sugar or naturally suppress appetite also need more context than the food's nutrient profile alone can provide. The important contradiction is that the same nutrients that may contribute to satiety also make cashews energy-dense. A small measured serving can fit easily into a balanced diet, while repeated handfuls eaten straight from the bag can add up quickly. So the practical advantage is not that cashews somehow cancel calories. It is that a satisfying portion may be useful when chosen intentionally. And this distinction points to an even bigger issue. Having beneficial nutrients is not the same as proving a specific health outcome. This distinction becomes even more important when we look at the minerals in cashews. They provide nutrients such as copper, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, and vitamin B6, all of which participate in normal physiological processes. Copper, for example, is involved in connective tissue and iron metabolism, while iron contributes to normal oxygen transport. Magnesium and phosphorus have roles related to muscles, nerves, energy metabolism, and bones. But here is the scientific reset that matters. A food containing a nutrient involved in a body function is not the same as that food preventing or treating a disease related to that function. Nutrition claims often become exaggerated when those two ideas are quietly connected. Cashews can contribute useful nutrients to your overall diet, but they should not be presented as a treatment for anemia, osteoporosis, or other medical conditions. Once we make that distinction, some impressive claims about cashews begin to look very different, and the claims about hair, skin, and anemia are a good place to examine next. This is where cashews are often given more credit than the evidence can comfortably support. Because they contain copper, some articles quickly jump to the conclusion that they make hair stronger, restore natural color, or noticeably improve skin. Others point to their iron content and suggest that eating cashews can prevent anemia. The more accurate picture is both simpler and more useful. Copper is involved in normal melanin production and connective tissue function, while iron contributes to healthy red blood cell formation and oxygen transport. Those are real biological roles, but they do not prove that a handful of cashews will transform hair, brighten skin, or prevent iron deficiency on its own. In fact, once iron deficiency has been diagnosed, cashews are not a substitute for proper medical evaluation or treatment. The practical takeaway is to separate nutrient function from guaranteed health outcomes. Cashews can certainly contribute valuable nutrients to a balanced diet, but they should be viewed as nutritional support rather than a remedy. And once we make that distinction, it becomes easier to examine other impressive claims about bones, brain health, and immunity with the same critical mindset. The same reasoning problem appears when cashews are linked to stronger bones, sharper memory, and better immunity. Cashews do provide nutrients such as magnesium, copper, vitamin B6, zinc, and selenium, and these nutrients participate in important processes throughout the body. Magnesium contributes to normal muscle, nerve, and bone function. Copper and vitamin B6 support normal physiological processes, and zinc and selenium have recognized roles in immune function. But this is where we need to separate biological function from promised results. The presence of these nutrients does not prove that eating cashews will strengthen your bones, improve your memory, prevent cognitive decline, or make you less likely to get sick. Those outcomes depend on far more than a single food. Cashews can contribute useful nutrients as part of an overall balanced diet, and that is already meaningful without turning them into a miracle food. This same evidence-first approach becomes especially important when we move to digestion, and to one of the more surprising claims about gallstones. Digestion is one area where the case for cashews can be explained more reasonably. But even here, the evidence needs to be separated carefully. Cashews provide some dietary fiber, and fiber contributes to normal digestive function as part of an overall diet that also includes enough fluids and other fiber-rich foods. That is a practical nutritional role, not a promise that cashews alone will solve digestive problems. The claim about gallstones requires even more caution. Some research has associated nut consumption with certain favorable health patterns. But moving from those associations to saying cashews themselves prevent gallstone formation is a much stronger conclusion and needs direct evidence. This reveals an important lesson. Not every benefit mentioned about the same food carries the same level of scientific support. Some claims are grounded in established nutrient functions, while others rely on associations or incomplete evidence. So rather than counting how many benefits cashews supposedly have, the better question is which claims are well supported and which actually matter when deciding how to eat them. That brings us to the most practical variable of all, how cashews are prepared and portioned. And this brings us to the variable that may matter more than any impressive list of benefits: how you actually use cashews. A practical starting point is a modest serving, about 1 ounce or roughly 28 grams, rather than eating freely from a large bag. Preparation matters too. Plain or dry roasted cashews can be very different choices from varieties coated with extra salt, oil, sugar, or flavorings that change the nutritional profile. Context matters just as much. A measured portion used instead of a highly processed snack is not the same as adding several handfuls after you have already met your energy needs for the day. Cashews can also be incorporated into salads, grain bowls, or other meals rather than treated as an unlimited, healthy snack. This is the real turning point. The value of cashews is shaped not only by what they contain, but by portion, preparation, and what they replace. Once you see that, the final question becomes much simpler. What is the smartest way to include cashews in your diet without expecting them to do more than food realistically can? The smartest question then is not, what can cashews cure, but how do they fit into the way I actually eat? Start with portion. A modest serving can provide useful nutrients without letting calories quietly add up. Next, consider the form. Plain, unsalted, or dry-roasted cashews may be easier to fit into a balanced diet than varieties loaded with extra salt, sugar, or oil. Then look at what you eat them with, and even more importantly, what they replace. A measured serving replacing a highly processed snack can mean something very different nutritionally from adding several handfuls on top of an already full day of eating. Finally, consider your own needs, because no single food is ideal for everyone. That is the real payoff. Cashews do not need to prevent disease or promise dramatic results to be valuable. Think in 5 questions. How much? What kind? Eaten with what? Replacing what? And is it right for you? When those answers make sense, cashews can simply be what they should be: one nutritious food within a balanced overall diet.